What up, Tube? Episode 2, chopping the 50. Today, I want to get some inner structure in the back window. Last time we put the back window where it's going to be. Today, we're going to build that inner structure, make sure it's nice and strong. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe, throw us a comment, like what we do, hit that bell for notifications. Let's get started. Last episode, I got this window screwed in where I need it to be, trued up and square. Now we need to start making it strong. So the original package tray got cut. The package tray is where all of my hinge assembly for the rear trunk bolt to. So yeah, we need it to be nice and strong. So what we're gonna do today is make some templates, and I am going to weld some steel from here down in our package tray so that I can start that inner structure. I need to weld this belt line that I cut up, and then we're gonna add a piece in here. So some paper templates, some cutting. Let's get going. So, like I said, I made a paper template here. Super simple to mock up where we're gonna fill that gap. And then I cut a left and a right out from that template of some steel. I added an inch to the bottom here so that I could flange this, and then we used the slip roll and we put a nice 90-degree flange in there. I did some relief cuts around the corner, and there's our structural filler piece for the inside of the window. I did a little pie cutting at the edges. We'll twist it around. All of this right now is just tack screwed in. So now that I got a left and a right made, and I mocked them up in the car, and I got the window where I needed it to be, I'm ready to put this stuff in. So, because this is all underneath, it's metal to metal on a backside that's not gonna get painted with the rest of the car. I always use some type of weld-through etching primer. This was whatever Amazon had available next day. Seymour, it looks like. Yeah. Spray your panels. Don't make shit, and don't spray backsides of panels. Don't not use weld through. Yeah, maybe you don't care 10 years down the road when it's rusting out from the backside, but if you sell that project, someone's gonna be real pissed. I can show you exactly what happens when you don't use weld through, because when I did my headlights up here, I Frenched the headlight and I made a little filler panel underneath. And like I said, I always use weld through. Well, guess what? I forgot. See this? That's rust coming from the back side and leaking down through. Obviously, I didn't seal this all the way up, so I have other issues as well. When I welded it, I didn't weld it all the way, and water's coming in from the back and just pooling in there. So that'll be one issue we're addressing this winter, as this whole front end is getting a facelift anyway. I should have drilled a drain hole in the back behind there, and honestly, when I remember putting this together, it was like night before a show, and I wanted it done, and I rushed, and I welded those in. And they definitely don't have weld through on the backside, because I was probably out of it and thought, screw it. Well, here we are 4 years later, and I have to fix it. So, weld through. I'm gonna clean all this up, paint the inside of that, let it dry, paint those pieces, get that window measured and put exactly where I want it to go. I did start welding up my seam here where I fucked up. And I did weld up my corners off camera last night. So yeah, let's get that in. And then I think I'm gonna work on this here, because having it die into a point, well, it's cool. This car is not pointy at all. I'm gonna take some of the leftover stuff we cut out and put a nice rounded corner in there, just like that was stock. So I'll take the cutoff piece we had and see what I can do about putting some shape into that. Well, will I do it or not? We'll see. It actually doesn't look too bad just dying like that either. So I did go ahead and get rid of sheet metal screws and get some clamps out and get the roof cut where it needs to be and lined up at the top so that I can get the bottom done. So let's get started. So while we wait for that weld through to dry, which never takes long at all, let me show you what I'm thinking with these leftover pieces. So this is the section that I cut out of my roof, the 4.5 inches. And where this dies in like that, I think I might want to add a little bit of curve there. So if we can get this stock curve out of here and maybe line it up in there, maybe we can make that a little more attractive. So yeah, let's do a little work to these while we wait for the paint to dry. I'm gonna cut and remove, leave lots of this because you never know. This isn't gonna go back in flat. It'll probably be at more of an angle. And what I'm trying to do is just catch a little bit of that curve so I can put it on the car. The window rolls up in the back side of it in a channel. Actually, this one still has a chunk of channel. So if you look, like your window's not that shape. The window's straight in the back and it rolls up. So let's surgically remove this from the inner structure and try and get just this outside piece here so we can recycle it. So now that I got these apart in the smaller pieces, just wanted to point a few things out here. When you go to cut this stuff up, don't just whip it apart and cut the inner structure out of structure all at one time. If you're planning on reusing stuff, also, this can be a tool to see how things go back together. I mean, obviously, we need to put the inner structure back in. I've stressed that how many times in this video. This is the bottom half of my window. This is all stock. And you can see, it looks like there's a piece of like a U-channel in there that runs up the side of the window to the top, and then another cap on the outside, and then the roof part, which has this channel. Then that's what I'm after. So I'm gonna nicely dissect this instead of just cutting through it and he-manning it. We're gonna find the welds and grind them out. Looks like there's a weld here and just pinched in here. So I think if I grind that weld out at the bottom, just do a little dissecting, I can peel this whole piece apart. And like I said, then I can see how they did the inner structure so that when it's time for me to rebuild my inner structure, I can follow suit and make sure it's strong and lasts 100 years just like this has. So, parts, old parts, save everything you cut off your top. You're gonna reuse it somewhere. If you don't, no big deal. But if you cut it up and you throw it out, you'll never be able to use it again. To rebuild this And this, I have my B-pillar, which has this shape in it already. So we're gonna cut the B-pillar out. We're gonna trim this back. Bam, smack a piece of that B-pillar in there. Same thing at the bottom. That shape is exactly the same. It's also the same as the window section I have cut there. If I have a leftover piece, I can use that piece in here. I can use that piece in here. So don't just go throwing all your shit out. It's not garbage. Be nice to it. Take it apart nicely and reuse what you can. Having to build this compound curve without the dies, cool. If you want to do it, have fun. I'd rather just cut this up and reuse it. So I'm going to do some more dissecting, get this piece apart. That primer is looking like it's pretty close to dry. Still a little shiny here and there. It is kind of cold tonight, but weld through usually dries within 5-10 minutes. So we'll get that all dried up and we'll start welding that in, and I'll keep working on dissecting these pieces. I was able to get that piece out of there without doing too much damage to it. And I actually have that inner piece now too. So you can see that channel that runs right up on the inside for the inner structure. Yeah. Now we know how it works on the inside. So I'm gonna put this on the car. And the more I look at it, the more I kind of like that point. But, so we have this here. Let's get out here the other way. So now we just try and see if we can use this shape in here somehow to make that a little more attractive. And honestly, the more I look at it, the only way it really works and starts to line up is if it's dying straight down and then curving a little. So the question is do I want to try and use that so it dives into the curve, pull it up a little into here, and then continue that up? Or do I just leave it the way it is? And honestly, I'm not quite sure. Right now, I'm leaning on the side to leave it the way it is because this doesn't make a huge improvement. The cool part is I can go back any time and change it if I'd like to. Not a waste of time though, because I got to decipher this piece, figure out the inner structure, and now I can rebuild the inner structure on the inside of this sail panel when I'm ready, because I understand how it works. So as I rebuild all this inner structure and tie it into the bottom of the door, I understand that there was that U channel coming up into here and then dying off, so I can put something similar back in. So lesson learned. Now I know what's inside there, and I also know that I'm probably not going to use that curve, but we'll sleep on it. We'll let these pieces sit off to the side for now. All of this stuff is fully dry, so I'm going to get to putting that back in and making sure that window height is perfect. I know left to right it's exactly where it needs to be. It is tacked in with a couple smaller pieces of sheet metal here. Actually, it's 10 gauge, but so it's not going anywhere, but on the sides it does move a little, and I wanted to leave it loose so that I can measure 100 different times so that I make sure that I got my height just right in the back. There's nothing worse than seeing a chop with a crooked window or a transition from the roof to the window where it's not smooth. they're really easy problems to fix if you take your time. If you look at my transition in my roof, here, I'll lay it down. It is perfect. All I gotta do is weld that pig back up and not warp the roof while I'm doing it. And it's good until about here. And then it starts to have a little dip in here. But all that's getting replaced out here by the new sail panel. So I will have a perfectly lined up roof in the back. The other part that's great is, this is the first thing I look at in chopped cars. If you duck down through the windshield, does that front windshield line up with the back windshield? Is the line from the top of the roof the same as the top going up through the bottom? And the bottom line, is that the same as from the front to the back? A lot of times in a chop it's not, but it can be. And I'll tell you what, it looks pretty good when it is. So let's get this back panel fitted, welded, and sealed back in there forever. And then we can move on to getting inner structure done. We're about ready to cut all of this out. I'll probably just snip this through here. Always leave more, like even this unsightly piece hanging down. If you're not quite sure what to do with it, leave it. You might use some of it. I know I'm not using the crown. I know this is all being rebuilt here, but I'm not gonna cut it away just yet. I'll just snip under here, right under my line there. And then that'll expose this so that I can build my inner panel and I won't have to crush and be inside the car while I do that. I do need to blow some of this spray foam insulation. I filled that up with spray foam when I first built the car because the exhaust was leaking up into the car from there, from underneath. This doesn't have tailpipes that exit. The exhaust literally dies in the trunk. And I got sick of not being able to drive it. So instead of putting tailpipes on it, I bush fixed it. I do need to tie this into the rear deck still. The more I look at it too, you got to be able to get to the back of these holes so that you can put your belt line molding on. There's a bolt and a clip that goes on there, and you can get to them from the back underneath the trunk. And if I weld this shut, you can't. So I need to make sure that I leave access, but still run some ties in so that it's tied up nice and tight. I did spray that etching primer on the back side of that as well, so that I'm not worrying about rust later down the road. So let's get that in. So I got her all welded in, tacked, spot welded, and it's nice and solid. So that weld through primer that I bought, it's sitting there next to the beer. Yeah, that's the first time I ever bought that brand, and it was the quickest, cheapest one to get here. And I'd have to say I'm not a huge fan. It definitely made the weld burn a little hot until it burned off. So I got some garbage in there I gotta grind out and redo. But for the most part, it's pretty good. It's all tacked in there. Yeah, I'll clean it up and weld it a little bit better. You're never gonna see that, but stuff like that bugs me. But from the inside, now we got that panel on the back. When you're trimming this thing out, there'll be just a nice piece of, you know, tuck and roll or trim or whatever that goes from the deck lid up into the window. But yeah, it looks good. And right now I'm figuring out how to tie all of this into this back deck. Originally, it wasn't tied in. This just window came up from here and welded, and there was a smaller space. Now we have a bigger, wide open space. I want a little bit more tie. So what I think I'm gonna do, especially above the trunk hinges, is I'm gonna make a channel piece, a U-channel that goes and welds in here, back to here, and welds on the bottom, along the back side, and along this side. So what I did was just take some measurements. I cut a 4-inch wide piece of strip. I measured in 1 inch for a 90, and we're gonna use the press brake here. And we'll put some bend in that. One-handed is not gonna work, but I'm gonna bend those 2 pieces and then figure out how to trim them so that they fit down nicely inside this channel. And I'll have one there and one there over top of each hinge, and then I'll probably just tie a piece of flat piece stock from back on the underside up in. Like I said, I gotta leave all of these back sides of these accessible so that I can get my trim and my belt line trim back in there. So let's make those. So these are bent. There's a little 90 in it. I left them long. Now I just got to figure out how to trim them so they fit down inside of there. I'll cut this, use some cardboard, and basically figure out how to cut this with that curve so that it'll lay flat right in there, and I can weld it right to the floor. And then back into here somewhere. So next, some cardboard. So I took some paper and I made this little mock-up that has the cuts that I need so that this can slide right in there. Like so. And then I can weld that along the back side there. I can weld it to the top of the hinge and up and around, and that's gonna tie my hinge into my rear deck, into this, and then this piece gets made next. So now I'm gonna transfer that cardboard onto my 2 pieces for either hinge side and put those in. And there it is, made out of steel. Nice, tight fitting. We'll weld that solid on both sides. And that will tie all of that structure into the back and into my hinge. And then I don't have to worry about a flimsy trunk. So I got those 2 supports welded in. And I sprayed some more primer over top of everything before we cap that whole section in. I gotta do a little bit of welding from about here over and grinding and get that belt line trim piece unfinished up. Once I do that, I can start focusing on the next piece of metal that goes in there. So I can say I will definitely never buy that Seymour weld through primer again. That shit is garbage, man. Like, seriously, I've never had such a hard time welding sheet metal to sheet metal because that was present. Like, it literally, it worked, it stayed, it didn't burn up, but whatever they put in it is not for a MIG welder. It says it is, but it's not. It's, yeah. Buy the 3M stuff. Don't waste your time with the cheap stuff on Amazon. Now that we got the inner structure in, we got our hinge areas tied in, it's time to tackle this piece. So I made a paper template. Same as always, I don't really video doing that. If you don't know how to make a paper template, this is not the place for you. Cut this piece out. I like cutting everything out with the Milwaukee air nibbler, the newer one they came out with. This thing will supposedly do up to 10 gauge. I don't think I'm gonna try it, but it does sheet metal really good. It's super accurate. I do use the snips from time to time, but man, I cut that piece out totally with the nibbler. Now when it goes in here, it welds to the back side of this and the back side of that window channel. So it doesn't have to be perfect on either side. It just can't be too long so that it's not blocking off access to the trim brackets there. So I'm gonna grab some magnets, put that in place, see how it looks, throw a few tacks in there. We'll do this piece in the middle, and then we'll have a piece around here and a piece around that side on either side, and then the sail panel. So 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, 5 pieces all together. Hopefully that's the ideal thing. I mean, I would love to be able to do 1, 2, 3 pieces. I'm just not that good. So we will do 5 pieces, 1 in the middle, 1 on either side under the window, 1 sail panel, another sail panel. So 5 altogether. So let's put this in. There's that piece tacked in. Like I said, it welds on the back side of that window rail and the back side of the belt line trim. Step number 1. So that piece is tacked in. Next, we'll get that roof line, start stitching that together and tack it in. Before I can do that, I need to get in here, and before I bought it from some other douche fucking nugget, and he decided to go to Home Depot and grab the roofing tar paper and put it all on the roof, because that'll save you a whole $5. So I need to get some solvent out and pull that all down, because there's no way I'm obviously gonna weld through that. It'll just be a disaster. Yeah, that's gonna be fun. But now that I got all this structure together, I got this seam down here pretty much welded up. I got to do a little welding in the middle. My gas tank is right underneath here, and I needed to get that structure in and as much tacked as possible so that this is strong, so I can open my trunk, throw the fire blanket down. Yeah. And then I can finish weld the rest of this seam. I did check my beltline trim up to this, and it does bolt right back on and fits perfect. So we got inner structure, we got the makings of the start of the outer skins, that back window's in place, the transition on the roof is super smooth. The transition from the back window into the beltline trim is super smooth. After this is all done and the roof's sheet metal worked and I got sail panels, we're gonna pancake this trunk deck lid too. So take a couple inches out, have that match that whole curve down. That way when you're looking at it from the back side, she don't got this big booty no more. We'll get this line to come right down through and all the way to the trunk. More like a fleet line, just not as bubbly. So there she is, inner structure, some sheet metal going. This is so strong now. There is no wobble, no play. It is in there like swimwear. Sorry for my dad jokes. I'm just excited. So I think that's gonna be it for this episode. We got the window in, the height set, the rear inner structure built, a piece out on the outside. We did play with this window opening a little bit and thinking about putting that stuff back in there. In retrospect, we learned a lot about the inner structure for our sail panels. So it was totally worth it to cut that stuff up and learn how to rebuild my inner structure for my sail panel properly. But I don't think I'm gonna use that old curve, and honestly, I'll probably keep that. Maybe add a little weld so it's a little softer of a transition in here to where I'm transitioning and it's not such a point. Even just building up a little bit of weld will soften that a little bit. But yeah, that's it for tonight. So if you are not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you do. Hit that bell, get the notifications, comment on my videos, share them with your friends. Let's build cool shit. Have a good night, everybody.